Following is an exclusive presentation of Cablevision local programming. TV that's close to home.
Reaching out to those in need in Westchester County and beyond, Dr. James Bostic and Maxima Augusta next on Meet the Leaders. Good evening and welcome once again to Meet the Leaders. I'm your host, Terrence Mike. As people are in need all over, not only in Westchester County, but across the country and across the nation and across the world. My two guests today reach out to many of those people in a very special way. Dr. Jim Bostic, who's the Executive Director of the Neperhan Community Center, and Maxima Augusta, who is the founder of the Haitian Memorial Foundation, are working together in a faith-based coalition to reach out to people in Haiti that are hurting. Some amazing stories they want to talk to you about down there. A lot of the money you've put in hasn't been reaching the people. We're going to talk about that and also some of the work that the Neperhan Community Center does. So it's a great show. Sit tight. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Gentlemen, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you.
So much to talk about. Let me just start with the Neperhan Community Center because that's what you've been doing for a number of years, reaching out to people in the community. When you look at kids today, in terms of their needs and things, do they respond to these community centers? Because more and more people are pulling away from like traditional types of outreaches, and they're getting into, you know, bad things a lot of times. Do you find yourself effective with the kids?
I'd like to say we are effective, and I do think that children respond. Part of the problem is there is actually a shortage of community centers that are that have the necessary funding, I should say, to offer viable services, programs, and activities to young people. So in lieu of that, or in the lack of those facilities, then young people turn to other things to do. But if you were to ever come to Neperhan Community Center, our building is open 365 days a year. It never closes. And we serve around 15,000 children and families in the city of Yonkers.
Where do you get your funding? Because, you know, state funding and county funding is constantly getting more and more cut. So private funding, do you get private donations?
We actually get a very probably 97% of my funding is governmental funding and grants. And we've been extremely blessed in that we have maintained and been able to sustain ourselves through grants and federal and state and funding. We've had some cuts in fundings, but in other ways we've had a tremendous surplus in funding for specific types of programs. So hopefully, one of the big areas is after-school programming. We're one of the leaders in after-school programming in Yonkers and possibly Westchester, and so we've been able to generate a lot of funding for after-school programs, and we have a tremendous partnership with the Yonkers Public Schools.
And Maxima, you are involved in the Haitian Memorial Project that you actually started, the president of that?
Yes.
And that project, give us a little perspective what it is and how it's kind of been a springboard to have you do an outreach into Haiti during these terrible times and things like that, and then we'll talk about how you guys are working together.
Well, Haitian Memorial Foundation was pretty much established on the premise of being able to commemorate all of the great accomplishments and contribution that our Haitian ancestors have contributed here in this country, the United States. And one of the primary elements that stood out to us was the Pierre Toussaint. We wanted, and we're still working on it, on designing and erecting a monument in Lower Manhattan in honor of Pierre Toussaint, being that he was a slave brought here by his French master in 1786. So we're still working on that, and it's coming along.
What would be, except for to memorialize, which is important, what do you want to see come out of that?
Well, what's been coming out of it, which is something that was completely unexpected, which is the turn of events in Haiti, J-12, January 12th, after the catastrophe. And suddenly we find ourselves diverting our attention, our efforts, and our energy towards helping the people of Haiti that have been in great need of international assistance.
Now, you both were in Haiti recently.
Yes.
Yes.
Your sleeves were rolled up and you saw it firsthand. Yes. Tell us what's going on, if the infrastructure at all is being built. Are people still dying a lot? I mean, is there still rioting and looting and you know, rapes going on in the street, or are those exaggerated? Any of the goods getting to the people? I mean, where is it? You're there.
Well, in terms of, your information is correct. It's been very slow and latent in terms of getting the goods out to the people, and this is one of the reasons why our not-for-profit organization took the initiative of organizing 2 separate Haiti relief missions down there. where we brought in about 2 containers full of goods and donations that we received here in the States. The last trip, Dr. Bostic accompanied us, and we were able to do some distribution in the northern part of Haiti, which is Saint-Marc, which is highly stressed by over 35,000 refugees that migrated north simply because there is absolutely nothing for them in the capital, no place for them to stay. So they've become not only victims but also homeless, people with no place and nowhere to turn to.
So nothing, I mean, people to stay, there's not even shelters being built with this?
And there was no infrastructure work being done, nor were we aware of any plans in the immediate future of any infrastructure work to be done. Most of these refugees are staying in thousands and thousands of makeshift tents made of sticks and plastic and bed sheets and the thinnest of materials.
So I don't mean to belabor this, but I need to get it right because we have an audience of people, that a lot of people from churches that sent a lot of money down there. The United States military was down there for a season, right?
Yes.
But they're gone, basically?
Yes.
Okay. Who is there? There's no organization that's kind of spearheading, getting something going. It's just sort of this hodgepodge of money coming in there and crates, but they're not organizing it?
Well, former President Clinton is there, and there is some administration that's taking place under his direct leadership. Okay. The United Nations has a very strong security force there that is doing a lot of work, okay, more along the lines of security work. They are distributing some of the food there, but there's about 1 million pounds of merchandise that is just sitting in the airport, and you can go there as a mission of your own church or organization with a truck, or get a truck while you're there, and you can just pick up what you want and go to the various parts of Haiti.
Why is there not outrage about that? I mean, across, even in the country.
Well, there is. It's just that people are very much inept, and there's very much a lack of the government pretty much stepping in and trying to take control of the situation.
Is there a fear, let's say, so if our president decides, to say, I'm going to send a group down there, whatever, or if our government does it, and to handle this, is there a fear by the Haitian government and other governments that all of a sudden there's going to be sort of this like colonization or taking over?
No, not at all. I don't think that is what the fear is. The fear pretty much comes from the people not having enough faith in their own government, because their government has been so absent for so long that life pretty much goes on as it was and continues to be. And that's something that's been pretty much taken the world by storm, because when you look at these people in the situation that they're living in very true dire situations, and a lot of them have been dying even after the catastrophe because there's a lack of care, a lack of attention. A lot of them are in the outskirts or the outer regions of Haiti and are unreachable, but yet there is not yet an organism or structure that is there to be able to answer that need.
When you both were down there, were you able to have access to President Clinton or anything like that, or is that just too far removed?
He wasn't even there at the time that we were there. He was not there physically right, in Haiti at that point in time. In fact, I think as we were leaving, my understanding is he was going back there. So at the time we were there, but we were able to meet with governmental officials, the mayor of Saint-Marc, also representatives of the president of Haiti. We were able to meet with them.
Do they have any authority? I mean, I know they have the titles, but do they have any ability to get anything done?
Well, we were able, Max and myself and Max's father, who was the former Minister of Finance, was able to negotiate.
In Haiti. I didn't know that.
Was able to negotiate with them for 15 acres of land, which they donated to us.
Oh, that's terrific.
We're going to be using now to begin to rebuild a part of Saint-Marc.
All right, so this is where the faith-based project that you have. You're going to go down there with churches like I may be off here, sort of like in Katrina, going down there because the churches are the ones that rebuilt Katrina.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, they did. And I mean, it didn't matter, if you were a liberal or conservative church. Everybody was going together, rolling their hands up, and they started building together. And this is the same model, I guess. Correct?
Yes.